Imagine for a moment that you could see beyond the surface of human histories, beyond the spoken or unspoken words, even beyond conscious thoughts themselves. Imagine perceiving the golden threads that connect one soul to another across time and space, recognizing ancestral patterns that repeat like echoes of a love that transcends this existence. This is the true nature of what we call passion, not a simple chemical or biological impulse, but a profound recognition of something your soul already knows, something Edgar Cayce described as predestined encounters between spirits who chose to learn, grow, and heal together. When a man truly falls in love, it's not just his conscious mind that responds, it's his entire spiritual essence vibrating in harmony with a familiar frequency, as if awakening from a deep sleep to the sound of a beloved melody. The patterns that emerge in this state transcend traditional psychology, as they touch deeper layers of human experience, layers that Freud only glimpsed in his studies of the unconscious, but that Cayce understood as soul memories, etched across multiple lifetimes. The first pattern that manifests when true love awakens is a sudden transformation of life priorities. This isn't simply rearranging a schedule or making practical compromises. It's as if a higher force reorganizes the entire internal structure of one's values and desires. Suddenly, things that don't seem essential become secondary, while the presence of that specific person assumes an importance that transcends all rational logic. Things at the first stage of spiritual recognition, a sign that your soul has found something it has been seeking for a long time, perhaps many lifetimes. Have you ever noticed how certain people enter our lives and instantly shift our perspective, as if they carry a key to inner doors we didn't even know existed? This phenomenon isn't coincidence, but part of the larger plan governing encounters between souls. Edgar Cayce spoke of how souls organize into groups that reincarnate together, assuming different roles in different lives, but always with the purpose of assisting in each other's spiritual growth. When a man experiences this transformation of priorities, is responding to a calling that comes from far beyond his current existence. The second pattern reveals itself through an almost compulsive need to protect and nurture. But this isn't the possessive or controlling protection born of fear or ego. It's something far deeper and more serene. It's as if he becomes a natural guardian, driven by an instinct stemming from ancestral wisdom. His gestures become gentler, his voice takes on warmer tones, and he develops an extraordinary sensitivity to the emotional needs of his beloved. This pattern doesn't arise from the personality we know, but from a spiritual memory of times when these two souls cared for one another across different forms and circumstances. Freud might interpret this as a manifestation of the paternal instinct, or as a sublimation of primitive desires. But in Cayce's spiritual view, it's the awakening of a karmic memory where this man may have been a guardian, protector, or caregiver to this soul in other incarnations. The gentle nature of this protection, devoid of destructive jealousy or excessive control, is the sin that it emerges from a pure source, the unconscious memory of a love that has already been tested and purified through multiple shared experiences. The third pattern manifests as an emotional attunement that defies any conventional scientific explanation. He begins to perceive her emotional states even before they are verbally expressed. He feels her joys, her sorrows, her anxieties as if they were his own, but without losing his own identity in the process. This transcendent empathy is different from emotional codependency. It's a connection that honors the individuality of both while recognizing the spiritual unity that binds them. This emotional attunement is one of the clearest signs that two souls have recognized each other beyond the veils of current personality. Case spoke of how souls who have shared multiple existences develop natural telepathic channels, a form of communication that transcends words and even physical gestures. When a man develops this specific ability with someone, it's not about developed psychic abilities, but a reconnection with a channel that already existed and was merely dormant, waiting for the right moment to be reactivated. It is at this point in the journey that many people begin to question whether they are experiencing something real or merely projecting romantic fantasies. But there's a fundamental difference between romantic illusion and genuine spiritual recognition. Illusion creates dependence, fear of loss, and a need for possession. Spiritual recognition creates freedom, mutual growth, and a love that strengthens instead of diminishes. When we observe these patterns in ourselves or others, it's important to distinguish between the ego that clings and the soul that recognizes. If you've made it this far, it's because something in your soul resonates with these profound truths. Perhaps you're experiencing some of these patterns, or perhaps you're seeking to understand the signs of a love that transcends the ordinary. This knowledge we're sharing doesn't come from abstract theories, but from careful observations of the patterns that repeat when souls meet and recognize each other. If this message is touching your heart, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell, because every video we create is a key to unlocking the deepest mysteries of human relationships and spiritual love. Don't let these revelations get lost. Stay connected with us on this journey of discovery, because we have much more to share about the secrets that unite souls across time. The 6 patterns of soul love. The 4th pattern emerges as an irresistible need for personal and spiritual growth. When a man truly falls in love, something within him awakens a need to become a better version of himself, not to impress or conquer, but because genuine love always calls us to our highest expression. He begins to question all patterns of behavior, seeks to understand his own limitations, and initiates a process of transformation that comes from the inside out. This awakening is neither forced nor artificial. It flows naturally like a river finding its course after navigating obstacles. It may manifest as a sudden interest in spiritual readings, meditation, self-discovery practices, or simply a deeper honesty with himself about who he truly is and who he desires to become. According to Case, this is one of the clearest signs that a soul is responding to the call of evolution that only true love can awaken. Freud might see in this process the sublimation of primitive instincts into higher forms of expression, but the spiritual perspective reveals something deeper. This man is responding to a soul contract. Before incarnating, his spiritual essence may have chosen this specific person as a catalyst for his own growth, just as he serves as a catalyst for a growth. Love thus becomes a vehicle of mutual evolution, where each reflects to the other their highest possibilities. The 5th pattern reveals itself through a completely new perspective on time and eternity. Men genuinely in love begin to talk about the future differently, not as a sequence of planned events, but as a natural expansion of what already exists between them in the present. There's an inexplicable certainty that this love transcends the temporality of physical life, a feeling that they have always been together in some way, and always will be. This perception doesn't stem from immature romanticism or denial of reality, but from a deep intuition about the eternal nature of the soul. Case taught that time is an illusion of physical experience, and that souls exist in a dimension where past, present, and future are aspects of a single expansive reality. When a man develops this expanded temporal perspective, he is accessing soul memories that confirm the continuity of his love beyond the limitations of the current incarnation. You can observe this pattern in the way he speaks about future plans, not with the anxiety of someone who fears things might change, but with the serenity of someone who knows they are aligned with something greater than their personal will. There's a different patience in his actions, as if he knows they have all of eternity to explore the depth of their love, and therefore each present moment becomes even more precious. The sixth and deepest pattern manifests as a natural ability to see through the masks of personality to the spiritual essence of the beloved. He doesn't just fall in love with the personality she presents to the world, nor even with the personality she believes herself to be. It connects with the eternal essence that dwells beyond all layers of social conditioning, fear, and emotional protection. This type of spiritual insight allows him to love not only her admirable qualities, but also her wounds, her limitations, her processes of healing and growth. He sees in her not only who she is today, but the full potential of who she can become. And most importantly, he loves without the need to change her, recognizing that her growth journey is sacred and must be respected in its own time and rhythms. Freud might interpret this acceptance as idealization or denial of reality, but Case understood this as the ability to see with the eyes of the soul, a vision that transcends the limitations of perception based only on physical personality. When a man develops this type of vision, is accessing the wisdom of multiple incarnations, where he learned that true love doesn't seek to possess or transform, but to accept and support the natural unfolding of the beloved soul. This profound acceptance isn't passivity or lack of discernment. It's the recognition that each soul has its own sacred path of evolution, and that the highest love is the one that honors this path even when we don't fully understand its curves and detours. It's the difference between loving someone despite their imperfections and loving someone including their complete journey of growth and healing. But how can we distinguish between these genuine patterns and the ego projections that we often mistake for love? The difference lies in the quality of energy that emerges from each pattern. Ego love creates tension, neediness, fear of loss, and a desire for control. Soul love creates expansion, freedom, trust, and a desire to serve in mutual growth. When we observe a man manifesting these six patterns genuinely, we witness something sacred, the awakening of a soul to its capacity to love beyond the limitations of fear and conditioned personality. It's as if he remembers who he truly is beyond the social masks and defense mechanisms he has developed throughout this life. Edgar Cayce spoke of how certain love encounters are soul encounters, moments when two spiritual essences recognize each other through the veils of physical personality and decided to embark together on a journey of mutual growth and healing. Those encounters are rare and precious, as they require both souls to be sufficiently awakened to recognize the sacredness of what is happening between them. Not all relationships are soul connections, and that doesn't make them any less valid or important. Each relationship serves different purposes on our journey of spiritual evolution. Some teach us about our rune patterns and healing. Others help us develop specific qualities like patience, compassion, or courage. But soul connections have a unique quality. They call us to our highest expression while simultaneously offering the unconditional love needed for that transformation to happen safely and sustainably. The presence of these 6 patterns in a man indicates his answering this higher calling of love. His soul has recognized something familiar and sacred, and all aspects of his being begin to reorganize around this new reality. It's not a process he consciously controls. It's something that emerges naturally when internal and external conditions are aligned for a love of this magnitude to blossom. It's important to understand that these patterns don't arise overnight, nor do they remain constant without conscious cultivation. Like any aspect of spiritual evolution, they require attention, intention, and commitment to develop and sustain. A man might experience glimpses of these patterns in moments of heart opening, but fully integrating them into his way of loving requires conscious work of healing and personal growth. Herein lies one of the biggest differences between ordinary romantic passion and true spiritual love. Romantic passion tends to be intense initially and then diminishes as the reality of the other person's personality becomes more apparent. A spiritual love, on the other hand, might begin more subtly, but deepens and expands over time as each person becomes more authentic and vulnerable in the other's presence. The challenges that arise in relationships based on soul recognition aren't obstacles to love, but opportunities for it to purify and strengthen. When 2 people love from the spiritual perspective, each conflict becomes a chance to better understand their own patterns of fear and defense. Each moment of vulnerability becomes an opportunity to deepen intimacy and mutual trust. Case taught that souls choose their relationship experiences before incarnating, based on what they need to learn and heal on their evolutionary journey. When a man manifests these patterns of spiritual love, he's fulfilling a soul agreement that transcends his current consciousness, is responding to the wisdom of his own spiritual essence, which knows exactly what's needed for both their growth. But how can a person know if they're being loved in this deep, spiritual way? The signs are equally clear and transformative. She feels seen and accepted on levels she's never experienced before. She feels safe to be completely authentic, including her wounds and imperfections. She experiences an expansion of her own self-love through the mirror of the love she receives. And most importantly, she feels called to her own journey of spiritual growth, not by external pressure, but by the example of transformation she witnesses. True, spiritual love always produces growth in both directions. When a man loves a woman from these elevated patterns, she naturally begins to manifest her own version of these same patterns. Love thus becomes an energy field that elevates the vibration of both, creating an upward spiral of mutual growth and expansion. This is one reason why Edgar Cayce emphasizes so much the importance of individual spiritual work within relationships. We can't give what we don't have, nor can we sustain a high love if we're not committed to our own process of healing and evolution. The most transformative relationships are those where both people are simultaneously dedicated to personal growth and the creation of a love that serves not only them but the greater good of all humanity. When we witness or experience love of this quality, we're seeing one of the most beautiful aspects of the human experience, the capacity for 2 individual souls to unite in a dance that honors both their uniqueness and their unity. It's like observing a symphony, where each instrument maintains its unique voice while contributing to a harmony that transcends any individual melody. The times we're living in today seem especially conducive to the awakening of these higher patterns of love. As more people seek authenticity and meaning in their lives, superficial relationships based solely on physical attraction or social convenience become less satisfying. There's a collective hunger for soul-nourishing connections, for loves that call us to be our best selves. This spiritual hunger is creating conditions for more soul connections to happen consciously. People who might have previously met and not recognized the depth of their connection are now more awake to noticing the subtle signs that indicate a sacred encounter. The patterns we've described aren't just characteristics of a few especially evolved men. They are potentials that exist in every human being when the conditions are right for their awakening. Perhaps you're reading this because you feel you've experienced some of these patterns, or because you want to better understand the nature of the love you seek in your life. Perhaps you're questioning whether what you feel for someone is truly spiritual love or just romantic projection. The difference, as we've seen, lies in the quality of freedom, growth, and expansion that this love produces in your life. True love never diminishes our light. It always amplifies it. It never makes us smaller. It always calls us to our greatness. It never limits us. It always liberates us to be more authentic. When a man loves a woman from these spiritual patterns, she feels more herself in his presence than she ever felt alone. This is perhaps the most distinctive mark of spiritual love. It returns us to ourselves in an expanded way. We don't lose our identity in love. We discover it more fully. We don't become dependent on the other for our happiness. We discover deeper wells of joy within ourselves. We don't need the other to complete us. We realize we were already complete, and that the love is a celebration of this shared completeness. Edgar Cayce talked about how the most transformative relationships are those where each person serves as a spiritual mirror for the other, reflecting not only who they are today, but also who they have the potential to become. When a man manifests these 6 patterns of spiritual love, he is offering this kind of sacred mirroring, seeing and loving the woman not only in her current expression, but in the full magnificence of her eternal essence. Receiving this kind of love can be simultaneously the most precious gift and the deepest challenge a soul can experience. It's precious because it offers the safety and acceptance needed for us to lower all our defenses and be completely authentic. It's challenging because it calls us to abandon all the smaller versions of ourselves and embrace the greatness our soul has always known we could express. Many people, when confronted with this kind of love for the first time, may feel fear or resistance. All the societal programming that teaches us to distrust genuine demonstrations of love, all the emotional wounds we carry from past experiences where we were hurt, all the limiting beliefs about our own worthiness to receive love may arise as obstacles to fully accepting the gift being offered. But these obstacles aren't really problems, they are opportunities for deep healing. When 2 souls meet in a relationship based on these high standards of love, every wound that surfaces is a chance to be seen, accepted, and transformed through the power of unconditional love. Every fear that emerges is an opportunity to be nurtured and dissolved in the safety of a connection that honors both vulnerability and strength. The healing process that happens in these relationships isn't always easy or comfortable, but it's always sacred. It's as if 2 souls have agreed to serve as spiritual therapists for one another, offering exactly the kind of love and support needed so that the deepest wounds can finally find peace and resolution. Cayce taught that many of the difficulties we face in relationships are actually opportunities to resolve karmic patterns from past lives. When two souls reconnect in this life with the spiritual intention of growing together, it's natural that all wounds and unresolved patterns will come to the surface to be healed. Elevated love offers the safe context for this healing to occur. This perspective completely transforms our understanding of conflict and challenges in relationships. Instead of seeing them as signs of incompatibility or failure, we can recognize them as natural and necessary aspects of the spiritual evolution that is happening through the union of two souls committed to mutual growth. When a man loves a woman from these deep spiritual patterns, he doesn't shy away from difficult moments. He embraces them as sacred opportunities to deepen the connection between them. He understands intuitively that true love isn't tested in easy moments, but in moments of vulnerability and challenge, where two people choose to remain open to each other despite fear or pain. This intuitive understanding of the sacred nature of relational challenges is another sign that a soul is operating from spiritual wisdom rather than just emotional instinct. The ego wants to avoid discomfort and conflict, but the soul knows that it's precisely through these moments that love can deepen and purify itself. As we come to the close of this exploration of the hidden patterns of masculine spiritual love, it's important to recognize that intellectual knowledge of these patterns is only the first step. True transformation happens when we begin to recognize these patterns in our own life experience, whether as those who manifest them or as those who receive them. If you are a woman reading this, you may be reflecting on the men in your life and questioning which ones manifest some of these genuine patterns of spiritual love. If you are a man, you may be wondering if you have been operating from these higher patterns or if you are still stuck in more limited ways of expressing love. Regardless of your current perspective, remember that we are all capable of evolution and growth. The patterns we've described aren't reserved for especially evolved souls or people born with extraordinary gifts. They're natural capacities of human consciousness when it opens to its wider spiritual dimension. The first step to manifesting or attracting this kind of love is always the inner work of healing and personal growth. We cannot give what we don't have, nor can we sustain the intensity of a genuine spiritual connection if we are not committed to our own soul evolution journey. This inner work includes healing emotional wounds from the past, developing a healthy relationship with our own solitude and completeness, cultivating spiritual qualities like compassion, passions, and wisdom, and developing our capacity to love unconditionally, beginning with ourselves. Edgar Cayce always emphasized that the most important relationship we can develop is the relationship with our own soul. When we are in harmony with ourselves, when we know our own patterns and limitations, when we are committed to our own spiritual growth, we naturally create the conditions for higher relationships to blossom in our lives. This inner work isn't a one-time thing, it's an ongoing commitment to staying mindful, open, and dedicated to our own evolution. The most transformative relationships are those where both individuals maintain this individual commitment while simultaneously dedicating themselves to the growth of the union they've created together. When two people approach love from this perspective of personal spiritual responsibility, something magical happens. They don't need each other to feel complete, but they choose to share their individual wholeness in the creation of something even more beautiful and meaningful. They don't relate out of lack or need, but from abundance and a genuine desire to contribute to each other's happiness and growth. This is the sacred alchemy of spiritual love, the transformation of two conscious solitudes into a union that serves not only the two individuals involved, but the greater purpose of elevating collective human consciousness. Every relationship operating from these high principles contributes to the healing and evolution of all humankind. Perhaps this is why these patterns of spiritual love are becoming more visible and recognizable in our time. Humanity is undergoing a collective awakening, and relationships are one of the most powerful vehicles through which this transformation can happen. When two people love each other from their spiritual essence, they become catalysts for the awakening of others around them. If this text has stirred something in your soul, if you feel called to explore the deeper dimensions of love and undone relationships, know that this spiritual curiosity is no coincidence. Your soul is responding to a call to evolution that comes from far beyond your current awareness. This call deserves to be honored and followed. True love, whether we offer it or receive it, always calls us home, not to a physical house, but to the remembrance of who we truly are, beyond all the masks and conditioning we've developed to navigate the world. It's a return to the original innocence of our essence, an innocence that wasn't lost, but merely temporarily forgotten. When a man loves a woman from these deep spiritual patterns, he's offering her a path back to this inner home. And when a woman recognizes and receives this kind of love, she offers him the same sacred gift. Together, they create a sanctuary where both souls can rest from their solitary journeys and remember the unity that has always existed beyond the illusion of separation. This is perhaps the greatest mystery and the greatest blessing of the human experience, our capacity to find the infinite in the finite, the eternal in the temporal, the sacred in the commonplace. Through love, two ordinary people can touch dimensions of reality that transcend all the limitations of physical existence and access the deeper truth of our shared spiritual nature.